I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins, and this is the Pleasure Principles podcast. Join me on this journey where sex, science, and sensuality meet. Let's change the conversation around sex and pleasure together. So let's get started. Wanted to give you some tips for today to get the most out of our time together, because there is so much. The fact that 1 in 10 women has never orgasmed is a huge problem. It's a huge problem that not a lot of people are talking about, and it's a huge problem that we're not getting the accurate answers for. So a little bit about me, for those of you that don't know. I'm Dr. Jordin Wiggins. I wrote a book called The Pink Canary. It is about bringing pleasure and optimal wellness back to women. It's about the way that the healthcare system is failing us, our beliefs, society, culture is failing us, and it's like setting us up for 1 in 2 women to have sexual dysfunction. And if you can't orgasm, if you have difficulty getting aroused, staying aroused, if you have pelvic pain, can't get aroused in the time that you want to, this is all sexual dysfunction, and it is affecting 50% of women globally. This is a big, big problem that it is my mission to fix. So the reason why I do this work is because I have lost my libido 3 times now. Once due to hormone and mental health issues, anxiety and depression, as well as effects of birth control. Once due to pelvic pain, and now a 3rd time, which was the postpartum sleep deprivation, breastfeeding, overtouched whole thing. And pandemic on top of that. So being a mom for the first time in a pandemic was a fun ride, an interesting challenge, which I think I am still processing, as I'm sure many of you are as well. So I am so passionate about talking about these things that there's so much shame around, giving women access to information that they need to fix it, because it's happened to me. It's happened to me so many times. And I see the toll that it takes, not only on me, how I show up at work, the effect that it has on romantic relationships, relationships with my friends, family, just everyone. So sexual health is health. And that's why I do what I do. So this is what we're going to do today. I want to go over a new definition of orgasm. We're going to talk about pleasure-focused anatomy. That's going to be the sex education that we should have gotten in school, but didn't. We're going to talk about the common blocks that I see, where people are getting stuck. The common blocks to orgasm, but it's also common blocks to pleasure. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about my pleasure roadmap, the things that I think everyone needs to orgasm for the first time or to have better orgasms. So let's talk about orgasm. What were we taught orgasm was? What most of the women that we work with in the pleasure principles, we have a very male-centered, very scientific, linear view of what orgasm is, that it should be just like the movies, something that just happens and is easy. And we know how we see things. Like, I almost want to blame or sue Hollywood for the idea of what they make sex and relationships and love look like. Yes. So people are not taught. They learned from movies, magazines, yes, and read the physical science behind it. So what we were taught was kind of the Masters and Johnson model. If you did have some type of sexual health education, we're taught that it's like this, there's arousal followed by a plateau phase and then orgasm. And it's sort of this increase of pleasure that has these physiologic symptoms, things that are happening to our body: muscle tension, increased heart rate, pupils dilate, flushing. But it's kind of like this linear formula that, you know, we kiss a little, maybe there's some oral sex, we're getting aroused, and then there's a plateau in this like edge that we go over for orgasm, which has muscle tension, heart rate, pupils dilating. And what I'm learning is that this linear, this physiologic idea of orgasm doesn't work for most women. It definitely does not work for 1 in 10 of you. And I mean, I think that is underreported, but I also think that it doesn't work for women that like really want to experience orgasm. Like maybe they are, but it's just kind of like a meh experience that you could take or leave. So what we need to do is we need to break that paradigm, because when we can change our beliefs, our behavior changes. If we're constantly trying to work towards a goal or fit into this box that's not working for our body because it's taking longer, because it's not happening at all, because you're trying to achieve a goal that doesn't work. It's that, you know, if you're trying to judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it's just not going to work. And you're going to get frustrated and you're going to feel like you're broken or your body's broken. It's going to cause discord in your relationship. And it's sad because it doesn't need to be that way. So I want us to change our definition. Orgasm is experiencing pleasure. And this is going to be some triggering for some of you, and that's okay. And that's why we're not orgasming, or we're not having the types of orgasm that we want, the deep, connected, mind-blowing orgasm that you feel like a changed person after. Okay, so we need to know that pleasure is something that we can experience in and out of the bedroom. Pleasure can be physical, like touch, getting a massage. It can be emotional, where we are laughing with friends, or for me, watching my daughter laugh or learn something new brings me an immense amount of pleasure. Spiritual, like watching a sunset, or do you ever just feel connected to something bigger than you? So we need to start thinking about pleasure and orgasm as one and the same. Experiencing pleasure, even out of the bedroom, is orgasm. So we should be working towards expanding that experience of pleasure all the time. Orgasm isn't just this little thing that your muscles tense up and then there's like an ejaculation or increased heart rate. Like that's not orgasm. Orgasm, that's looking at one little piece. It's increasing pleasure everywhere, because think about this, okay? And I know this is like people have their hang-ups and they get their walls up about this stuff, but we actually need time to stop and think about this with our beautiful conscious minds, not all of the negative beliefs that have been told to us, okay? So an orgasm is something that is beginning in our mind and happening in our body. So when we start looking at orgasm as experiencing pleasure and doing this in all different kinds of ways, because think about it, if we do that visualization of something that brings us pleasure, makes us happy, like thinking about what does that meal look like, taste like, smell like. If you're doing that, like you're actually sitting there doing this exercise with me, we're increasing heart rate. Our pupils are dilating. Our breathing state changes. Like all of those physiologic things that we think need to happen with orgasm are still happening. Okay. So orgasm in a penis and vagina type of way, we need to actively work to change the way that we think about it, that we believe orgasm should happen, and start looking at it like expanding pleasure and doing it all day, every day. I mean, we can't be in our pleasure 100% of the time because it's real life and there's stressors and things like that. But that's where we need to go in our minds. So just diving a little deeper into this idea of experiencing pleasure as orgasm. When I talk to women that orgasm and women that can orgasm easily, have expansive experiences from sex with connection to their partner, they talk about increasing the amount of pleasure. So they're experiencing pleasure daily, but we're talking about like a big increase, a big influx of pleasure. And it could come from anything. It could come from dreaming about something, daydreaming about something, and really, really skilled sexual practitioners can orgasm just from thinking about it. Well, that's like when you've been training for a while. So don't think that you should be able to do that today. And when we're looking at our new definition of experiencing pleasure, orgasm has an expansive quality to it. Like you feel bigger, you feel changed, you feel different after. And there's also some type of shift in consciousness or state. We changed state from being in our like sympathetic on doing thinking into our being, into our experiencing. And that's what orgasm is. And that's how we start working on and training and flexing that muscle to have bigger and bigger experiences with sex. So we think that orgasm or not being able to orgasm is all about hormones and anatomy and physiology. Like my body's broken if I don't do it. There's something wrong with me. But the fact is there is so many contributing factors, so many parts of your life that play a role, because I can almost guarantee you your body is not broken. What you've been taught is. Pleasure anatomy, the education that we should be having, the education that we need to give our children. Don't worry, there will be a Pleasure Collective sexual health education for kids coming soon because we need it. The clitoris was left off of medical textbooks until the 90s. And actually, it was in medical text from years and years ago, like hundreds, thousands of years ago, and then it disappeared for a while. They kind of like were like, oh, let's take the clit out, pretend it doesn't exist. And then it's started to come back and make its appearance. So who knows this, or who knows? We can thank Freud for a lot of this with his work, because he taught us that clitoral orgasms were somehow immature, and that the correct way to orgasm when you become an adult female, vaginal orgasms are mature and they're the right way to orgasm. The clitoris is also the only organ on the human body that is just for pleasure. Like, it's its only job is pleasure. And the interesting part about it is that it's been left out. This is a part of our bodies, and most of us are not even taught about it. We're not taught about it in school. We kind of need to like learn about it on our own through porn, whatever. But this should be a part of our sexual health education. And it is a huge failure that it is not, because only 30% of women can reliably orgasm from penis in vagina sex. That means that 70% of us cannot reliably orgasm from penis in vagina and think there's something wrong with us. But really, this is the like fish climbing the tree thing. When we're expecting 70% of women to orgasm in a way that isn't natural for the way our bodies, our anatomy is, then what we're taught is the problem. Our bodies aren't broken. What we've been taught. Thank you, Freud, for that. That's the problem. So I want to talk a little bit more about the clitoris because it is so, so important. And this is the thing. We also talk about the clitoris as like this little bulb or like doorbell, or I don't know what people talk about at the top of the vulva. But really, it's this much bigger internal structure. So the glands, or the part of the clitoris that we can see if we're looking at a vulva externally, is here. But internally, there's this bigger internal structure with like bulbs and these crura. And the interesting part about this is that we're taught, I'm going to just see if this is, I've got a couple slides here to help explain this. So we're taught that there's a ton of different ways to orgasm. Who's read this? Clitoral orgasms, vaginal orgasms, G-spot orgasms, anal orgasms, nipple orgasms. Who has been taught that there's this sort of like different types of orgasm? Really, that is not true. That's not anatomically correct. By labeling our orgasm as to where it happened, because what's actually happening, no matter what, if there's anal stimulation, G-spot stimulation, we are stimulating the different areas of the clitoris. So you'll see that the bulbs of the clitoris are on either side of the vagina. So if you are having penetration of any kind and you're orgasming because the bulbs of the clitoris are being stimulated. Something called the clitoris urethral vaginal complex, the CUV complex, is being stimulated. What that actually is the G-spot, where the spot where the clitoris, urethra, and vagina meet. And where you find that is a couple inches in from your vagina up towards your pubic bone. And this is like some erectile tissue that, if stimulated with the right kind of stimulation frequency, etc., that each person, each vulva owner likes, you're stimulating the G-spot. But that spot isn't really a spot. What it is the CUV complex. So no matter what, if we are having anal sex, penetrative sex, it is we're stimulating the clitoris. We're stimulating the internal structure, those nerves that are innervated. And one shouldn't be of higher value than the other. That is just a negative belief that we have. Also, that urge to pee. Sometimes if you have a G-spot orgasm or are squirting, that urge to pee is because the urethra is right there. You're pressing on that when you're stimulating the CUV complex. So are we clear that there aren't really different types of orgasms? It's how maybe we were being stimulated, but it's not really a different type of orgasm. It's just a different type of, a different way to stimulate the clitoris, which is the only organ that we need for pleasure. I mean, people can orgasm from having their nipples stimulated or many other things, but it's just really important for us to know that any orgasm is a clitoral orgasm. So even penis in vagina is still, we're still stimulating the clitoris, okay? It's all from the same place. So technically, vagina is our vaginal canal. It's internal, we don't see it. So to call it a vagina is not actually true. What the whole thing looks like, if we're looking at a woman's anatomy, it's actually called a vulva. The whole thing is a vulva. So if you're going to say like wipe your vagina, you actually mean wipe your vulva, or you're looking at a vulva. And if we were going to do the male equivalent, because we say that sex means penis and vagina, which is the most, like, penetration is usually the most pleasurable way for men to have sex. And they name their anatomy like penis, or the name that they call it for most people is penis. So if we wanted to do the equivalent as women, we should be calling our anatomy clitoris, because that's how we get the most pleasure. I'm not saying that because it's not anatomically correct, but you get my point. Like, clitoris is this like elusive thing that it's a part of our body and we don't even understand, and it's how we receive the most pleasure. Ask a man about the clit and the internal structure and how to stimulate it. He has no idea. Maybe he watched some porn, maybe he's like well read and everything, but it shouldn't be this hard to find this type of information. So let me keep going here because I did not realize the time. So common blocks that I see for achieving orgasm: lacking a pleasure mindset, thinking that pleasure is bad. Just the word can bring up feelings, and that's okay because we've been taught as a society that pleasure is bad, that feeling good is somehow bad. We also think, and this is part of lacking a pleasure mindset, that good sex and orgasm is just something that's going to happen. And it's not. I hate to tell you, it's not, because when what we've been taught is wrong, then we have to actively seek out correct information that's going to work for our bodies and practice it. We need to train like pleasure athletes. The second big block that I see, and this is just common, is the shame, the negative messaging we received about sex. Let me know in the chat, what were you taught at home about sex or about women that like sex? Like, what was that messaging? And maybe it wasn't directly from your parents, but maybe it was from, I went to a Catholic school and women who had sex were sluts, or you don't have sex because you're scared of getting pregnant. We're taking our agency back. We're getting out of that like victim role. Oh no, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. And we're actually going, oh, wait a minute, I'm not broken. What I've been taught's broken, and I can fix this by changing the way that I think. Stress and overwhelm. This is the biggest one. I think if I had to pick just one of these to teach and treat on, it would be stress and overwhelm. Because when our body is in a sympathetic nervous state, we cannot receive maximum pleasure. Those pleasure centers in our brain is turned off when we're doing. When we're in a parasympathetic nervous state, we're able to receive pleasure. Touch is more pleasurable. So that's why sometimes on vacation, libido's back, sex is better, because we're relaxed, we're in that parasympathetic nervous state. When we're at home and we have laundry to do and work emails to send, and our partners come up to us and try and initiate, it's like, ugh, like their touch can feel gross because our pleasure centers are turned off. If you do not have libido, if you lack desire, most likely this is one of your biggest areas that we can work to improve. Also, when you're stressed and you're overwhelmed and you're in your head, so this is those of you like making to-do lists, thinking about that, thing that you forgot to do for your work project, the person that you forgot to email, the lunches that you need to make. When you're in that sympathetic state and you're thinking, you're not in the being and able to feel and receive maximum pleasure. You will not be able to orgasm or orgasm to your fullest potential when you're in that state. Yeah, and vacation's just like a good example of that for some people. When they're relaxed, things are easier, things are better. Our miseducation, like we talked about, we just went over this, we were not educated properly. We were not taught, this is how you bring a woman to orgasm. This is how you can bring yourself to orgasm. The clitoris is what makes it most pleasurable for women. We were taught penis in vagina, ejaculation equals baby. And that's what we think sex is. And that's what we're trying to replicate. So that small-minded view, our view of orgasm as this like linear model with a physiologic response, is also getting in the way of you being able to orgasm or orgasm how you would like. And I just want to reiterate that only 30% of people with vulvas orgasm from penetration. The other 70 need clitoral stimulation. You're not broken. It's just anatomy, and Freud and our heteronormative sexual health education would like us to believe differently, but that's not true. Chasing orgasms. Thinking that orgasm is the goal and that you did not have sex if you didn't orgasm, or if you both didn't orgasm, it wasn't sex. Like, think about that. Think about how that feels. Is that experiencing pleasure when that is the goal? And we can get so in our heads when we can't orgasm that we need to remove that block, because if we make the goal experiencing pleasure and teaching our bodies to experience more pleasure in and out of the bedroom, that's an attainable goal. That's a realistic thing that we can achieve and will allow us to start to orgasm. I forgot this. In the stress and overwhelm point, feeling safe. Feeling safe is so, so important for us to be in the parasympathetic nervous state. And for the most part, that means feeling safe with our partners. And that's why we need to feel seen, feel heard, have great communication. Know that if you completely let go open, receive, he's got you. And some of that's our shit. Some of that's our hangups. I'm working through these blocks with women all the time to feel safe, because maybe we don't trust love. Maybe we don't feel worthy of amazing amounts of pleasure and money and love. Like, we block that. And our vulvas, vaginas do a great job of mirroring that with our ability to orgasm. Like, if we don't feel worthy of good things, we usually have a lid on our lives. Like, the women that orgasm and are really good at it, like, that's what I'm doing after working with thousands of women. It's what's the commonalities of women that can really orgasm, and what are the hang-ups and blocks for the women that can't. And the women that can and feel safe and seen and feel worthy of all of the goodness in the world, those women can orgasm. So if you don't feel good enough, if you have confidence issues, could be about body, could be about work performance, fear that love will leave or won't be there for you. If you cannot relax and let go, receive pleasure, money, power, promotions, then we have a block. We have a block on this energetic channel in Chinese medicine, the CV channel or the inner channel. And that's going to stop us from being able to really, really orgasm well. Okay. Yeah. And if we have those walls up, we protect ourselves, then it's hard for us to give love and receive love. And that's kind of what we're doing, right? It's an energy exchange with orgasm. If you're the one in the relationship doing the courses, reading the books, doing the counseling, working on yourself, and your partner is doing less or doing it at a really slow pace, that like sets us up to not feel safe and not orgasm properly. All right. So now what? I'm hoping that we have done we're clear on the need a new definition of orgasm, need to be re-educated. We have so many blocks and hangups from childhood that have, or growing up in society as a woman, that get in our way. So it's not you, you're not broken, you are completely normal. We just have a lot of blocks that we need to overcome. And when we can look at them, call them out, know they're there, change your beliefs, then your ability to orgasm, your ability to experience pleasure will change. So how we work on doing this, pleasure reclamation. We need to know that pleasure is good. You deserve pleasure. You deserve all of the good things in life. Money, sex, power, connection, love, all of it. And if you're blocked in some areas, like these blockages, I used to think I was a great compartmentalizer. Like, I'm going to kill it at work. But if my relationship was a mess, I thought that there was this like wall, but it's not. It's all one and the same. This being able to receive, trust, surrender. We can't do it in one area and not the other. This is like a 360 thing that we need to work on. Part of a pleasure reclamation is understanding that sex, orgasm, pleasure is good for you. This is scientifically proven. We know that orgasms are pain relief. They help balance our hormones. They improve immune function. So they're doing good things for our body, but yet it's almost like demonized, or we think sex is bad. Exploring pleasure is exciting. And this is something that I've seen in a ton of other courses, and it's not necessarily what works for people. So they'll say, masturbate, self-pleasure, set time aside. I agree with those things. And masturbation as empowerment and a source of practicing pleasure definitely works. But if that's triggering to you, or that's a no for you, that's something that you don't want to do, feel that. Like, does that feel pleasurable? It doesn't at all. If it's not for you to try and force yourself to do something, we're going further away from experiencing pleasure. So we need to start at a point in our lives, wherever we're at on this journey, to get more pleasure, to increase our experience of pleasure. Because reading your Cosmo articles and doing your checklist, like, we need this, like, we need those things out there for sure. But if it's not working, there's a reason that it's not working. So becoming a pleasure researcher, exploring pleasure, and I'm talking about, is it pleasure from watching a sunset, being by the ocean, feeling the sun on your skin, laughing with friends? Like, we need to start expanding our experience of pleasure. And if you're really blocked about bedroom pleasure, masturbation, then we need to start outside of the bedroom. Quick note on masturbation: couples that masturbate report better relationship satisfaction and better communication. So this is another hang up that I see. People think that, oh, I can't touch myself, or if you or your partner masturbates, it's somehow cheating. This is like all such fucking bullshit. And I say that because we know that couples that are together but also masturbate have what you want. They're able to orgasm, they communicate better. So these negative beliefs and hangups are what you need help working through if we're going to get you to that goal. Little note on exploration: fantasy can be a great way to do this. Novels. I love the app Dipsy, actually. And did I put that on my resource guide, team? If it's not there, I need it there. It's like an audio app with little short stories that help get you aroused, because sometimes we don't have time to read a whole novel or like to get to the good part. So sometimes we have 8 minutes to help us, again, change our state, change our consciousness state. And pleasure for you that day might be listening to that audio, listening to the meditation or visualization stuff that you will get with this course. And that might be your pleasure for that day. If you increased your pleasure, if you expanded it, if you changed your consciousness, that is orgasm. And the more we do that, the more we repeat that, then we're going to get to that little small idea of what we were taught orgasm is. And when we're exploring, we need to ask ourselves, what turns me on? What works for my body? What types of touch does my clitoris love? Does my ass love? Do my breasts love? What does my G-spot love? If you don't know the answers to those things, we need to get exploring. And if you're blocked about getting exploring, we need help there. So no matter where you're stuck, it's possible, but we're going to need help. Next step on our roadmap, which I kind of touched on because I went on a little pleasure tangent. Where can we add more pleasure to our lives? How do we expand pleasure? How do we start welcoming more pleasure into our lives on the daily? Eat oysters. Yeah, that's it. Use an aphrodisiac food. I love these nutritionists and these people that sell essential oils, and they're like, oh, this helps with libido. No, no. Maybe if you are on your date at your favorite restaurant, gazing into your partner's eyes, having amazing conversation, feeling seen, anticipation's building up, and you eat oysters on that date, maybe. But it's just lingerie, oysters, look at your vulva in the mirror. These things in and of themselves, when it's not fit into this entire roadmap, will not work. So a note on pleasure expansion and some suggestions for you to try, but women, especially women that struggle to orgasm, struggle to let go, struggle to surrender, we usually find our no's before we find our yeses when it comes to pleasure. So what kind of touch does my body like? There's usually a lot of no's first, like, oh no, I don't like that, or I don't like that, or this vibrator was too strong. We are getting a lot of no's before we get to the yes, I like this. Yes, that feels good. And getting these no's early in the game is why I see so many women give up, why they find it so hard, why they feel like they're broken. But we want to learn to expect the no when we're trying to expand pleasure research. Okay, the no is cool. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's just yeah, that wasn't for me. I tried it. And maybe it might be in a month from now or a year from now, but right now that's a no. And that's cool. So ways that we can expand pleasure. Breath work. So this could be through meditation, through yoga, any practices where we are taught to focus on our breath, and breath work in sex during masturbation, where seeing how the quality of our breathing changes. Can our breath be brought down to our pelvic floor, or is it shallow? Like, what is the quality of our breathing? The more we are expanding that, and again, that's a tool, breathing, deep breathing, belly breathing, to get us from that sympathetic nervous state into the parasympathetic nervous state to have more pleasure. Another way to expand pleasure, sound. How does sound shift our sexual experience? Sound can help a lot of women orgasm, but we're scared. We don't feel safe to express ourselves with our partners. See that connection? Pleasure expansion, pelvic floor training. If there's pain, we need to see a pelvic floor physiotherapist. Maybe we need an estrogen cream if we're menopausal. Maybe we need a jade egg practice or a pelvic floor breathing practice where we are aware. Because if we're numb, if we're like disconnected from our vulvas, then that's a problem. Mindfulness. The more present we are, the more we are able to be in our bodies, feeling the sensations and not in our head, the more we can surrender, the more we won't have a goal, the more that just expanding our ability to feel pleasure a little bit at a time, that's the goal. That's all we have to do to have the outcome that we want. And we want to work on expanding where on our bodies we can feel pleasure. So there's this tendency to go right to the genitals, like, maybe kiss a little bit and then it's oral sex and then it's penetration. That's like going to a restaurant and ordering the same thing off the menu. If it's your favorite thing, that's, it's cool. It works. We love it. But we don't want the same thing for years and years. We need to mix it up. And it's interesting, like babies, I watch my daughter, she will stretch, she will rub her eye, she'll do things that feel good and avoid things that feel bad. That's human nature. But we do the opposite as adults. It's like we punish ourselves and we don't let ourselves do things that feel good. We don't even notice how good putting on moisturizer after you get out of the shower could feel. If we took our time, went slow, how does it feel like on your skin? What touch feels good on your calves? What touch feels good on your arms? We're just slathering it on and getting dressed and going to work. So we need to work on expanding pleasure, sexual pleasure, and pleasure in the day to day. We need to increase our pleasure vibration. Next step on the roadmap. If we are not connected to our feminine, we're not going to get any further. And masculine is the doing, over-functioning, in our head, goal-oriented. Feminine is the ability to let go, surrender, receive, ride those waves of pleasure as they come and go, without an outcome. You're just being, feeling, experiencing. And if you can't do that, if you can't connect to that feminine energy that we all have in all of us, and that society tells us is like too weak, too emotional, whatever. So we all just act like these robot versions of ourselves. Orgasm's not going to happen for you. Or orgasm to the expansive quality that we want, the connected quality that we want, won't happen either. Orgasm is this deeply connected, like we're deeply connected to our energy and our ability to feel. And if we're stuck in our head and we're not in our heart, in our body, in our feminine, that we're in the wrong state to be able to orgasm. We want to learn how to grow our desire, grow our pleasure in our body and our mind, and that's going to increase our vibration. It could like fill our cup until it overflows, whichever way we kind of want to look at it, but we're growing that. We're growing, what do we want? What do we like? What kinds of touches feel good? And when we grow and expand that, then orgasm, experiencing more and more pleasure, is the only state. It's the only thing that can happen. So the more that we're in this vibration, the more that we're feeling pleasure in our day-to-day, the more that we're able to have the types of like stereotypical orgasms that we want to have. We also need to be able to like feel, flow, surrender with that feminine. That also means feeling like some of the yucky emotions too. I just want to make a quick note on that, because we try and be nice and happy and like we're not feeling anger. We're brushing so many things under the rug in our emotions, maybe like the way we're treated in relationships by society, work, whatever. We need to be able to emote on a full spectrum, feel the feelings on a full spectrum. And that's the feminine. When we're stuck here and we're like, mom that does for everyone, or, you know, works really hard at work, and we don't feel, we're not allowed to feel our feelings, be in our feminine, feel safe in our feminine, and we've disconnected from ourselves, like that's like the lowest pleasure vibration possible. We need to fill up that cup. And then eventually we get to pleasure mastery, which is where we all want to be, where we are surrendered. And there's such a difference. Like we're talking surrender, we're not talking submit. Because I think when I say this to a bunch of type A, perfectionist, high achieving women, we look at surrender as a bad thing. Like we can't let go. It'll all fall apart if I do. But we need to be able to surrender so deep into pleasure, so deep into the experience as it is in that moment, and trust and accept that it is happening for your highest good in the moment, and it will lead to the outcome that you want without you trying to control, steer, edit, do whatever. And I'm not talking about if you're having a kind of stimulation from a partner that doesn't feel good, you need to be able to say like, hey, that's not expanding my pleasure, it's contracting it. So that's like not what I mean, but I'm talking about how we're not trying to get to a goal in a certain time. We're like surrendering and accepting our pleasure for what it is in that moment, moment after moment. And in order to do that, we need to get out of our heads. We can't be thinking about the future where the things we have to do, or am I taking too long? We need to be so present in our pleasure in that moment. Okay. And the way that we're going to get there is by practicing and doing the work, not just expecting orgasms to happen, or the expanded, connected type that we want to achieve. And hopefully you can now connect these, like all the life things to this, all the beliefs that we've been taught and how that's impacting and where you're kind of blocked on the roadmap. Maybe it's a feminine energy thing. Maybe it's like your pleasure vibration is so low that you need to work on filling it. So wherever you're at, it's okay. Hopefully we've learned and talked about that. More resources, more details for you are in my book, The Pink Canary, which is a great next step if you are just figuring this out. If you know, you're like, she is speaking to me, and you know that you want to invest the time, money, energy to get this fixed because it's impacting your relationship. It's impacting the way you show up at work. It's impacting how you show up as a mom, because we cannot compartmentalize. So if we're not having the amazing connected sex that we wish, we know we're not showing up in our best optimal health, amazing state. If you know that this is something and you're like, she is speaking to me, I need help fixing this now, we can set you up on a call with me. You don't need to do it yourself. You don't need to struggle through it. That's the masculine way. That is the way that's gonna like take you further away from your pleasure. It took me 10 years of post-secondary education, other continuing education classes, reading books, reading research articles, and we've distilled it into some programs that will work for you. Take the guesswork out of it. So if you are ready, you know you need it, reach out to our team. We will info@thepleasurecollective.com would be a great way to get in contact with us. Have a great week, everybody. If you like what you heard in this episode, leave me a rating. Your support helps me get discovered by more women like you. Together, we can change the conversation around women's sexual health and pleasure for you, your partners, and generations to come.